right, take two. Welcome back, everybody. It's another episode of the Niner Family Huddle podcast, and we're talking free agency update. Kyle Juszczyk, Mac Jones, Jordan Mason traded, and John Lynch had some comments about the offseason and how it's going so far. We'll talk about that and maybe more after this. All right, well, let's talk juice. So that's where we were just kind of talking about. Niners cut him. He went and I guess the Raiders and the Steelers were kind of interested, and he ended up re-signing on a 2-year, $8 million deal or so, $7 million guaranteed. So he's basically guaranteed to be around for 2 more years. That's how I read that deal. I thought we were done with the Juice era, but it looks like he's going to make the 10-year wall or whatever they do. So what do you guys think about Juice coming back?
Yeah, it's weird. I guess he still has a couple more squeezes in him. We could squeeze a little more juice out of him. I don't know. I was ready to move on, to be honest, but
me too.
At the same time, I like him as a person. And doesn't he have some affiliation with your company, Ryan, as well? So now maybe we have another shot at bringing him on the pod.
I don't know. I've been talking a little negative. I hope he's not watching.
I'm gonna change my tune. Yeah,
he didn't.
He is sponsored by one of the beverages that I sell. Yeah,
he didn't mean any of it. Juice. Don't even
take it. We'll take those episodes down. Yeah, we'll take them down. No worries.
Might be half our episode. Our episode list.
I thought we were moving on. It seems weird. I'll try not to be too pessimistic, but it just seemed weird. It's like we cut him, and that felt like kind of a Parag thing, if I'm just being honest. And then it was like, oh, we brought him back for basically the same amount of money. I think it's $1 million less, but more guaranteed money. Almost was like, oh, so Kyle got through to Jed. Maybe I'm reading too far into it, but it just seemed like one of those like conflicting ideas on what we should do and where we should spend the money. So I thought it was weird, especially after we invested in that tight end too. I was like, okay, like I can convince myself we've got a new game plan and everything. So now it's like, oh, so we are still going to use a fullback. Why did we invest in a tight end too so significantly? So I don't know. It feels weird, but you know, I can get delusionally optimistic about it. And I like Juice a lot as a person. I know he has a lot of ties to this team, to the Kittles and everyone. And so I'm happy. I'm happy for Juice. And we'll see how many more squeezes he does have left.
It's weird for me because I had also kind of like mentally or emotionally moved on, and I didn't even want him gone. Like I do feel like there's an unnamed member of this podcast that has been a lot more negative on him than others. And even when that was happening, like during the course of the season, like, yeah, he's probably not the same guy he was 4 or 5 years ago. You know, most guys aren't, but I still thought he's a net positive, like a good player, you know, and like Chasen said, I think it's good to have him around. So I'm happy that he's back. It's kind of nice to have, you know, another familiar face, a guy that I know he didn't play his whole career with the Niners, but will definitely be viewed as a Niner for his career, you know, versus a Raven. But it does kind of seem like it goes against everything else that they've been saying and doing. So maybe it was just as simple as, hey, we want you to take a small pay cut. And he was like, no, I don't, I've done that before. I'm not going to do it again. And they said, okay, well, here you go. The new ruthless approach. And, you know, he had a few days to consider it, went and looked at other options that were out there and was like, you know what? It's not better. Okay, I'm going to take that pay cut after all, because I can't imagine that the Niners wanted him to take a bigger pay cut than what they ended up signing him to. Like, why would they? Once you've already released him, that doesn't make any sense. So that's why I don't necessarily think it's what you said, Chasen, about the like Parag versus Kyle, whatever. I think they just had a number. They said this is the number and called his bluff. And they ended up getting him to come in for that number. I don't really think it makes a big difference either way. I think he can still help the team. I don't think he's going to be the reason between making the playoffs and not making the playoffs or anything like that, you know? So it kind of feels like, oh, good, Juice is back. Cool. All right, let's talk about that D line, you know, or whatever. So, anyways, that's sort of how I feel. I'm glad. I hope he gets to make the 10-year wall or whatever it is. Like, he's a good dude. I've enjoyed watching him, you know, and I want good things for him, and I'm glad he's still a Niner. But it's also kind of like, you know, all right, he's a Niner, big deal.
Yeah, you mentioned the D line. It's got me thinking. Juice is about 240, 245 ish. Can he bend the edge? Can he come off
He's
the edge?
He seems
he's
pretty
kicked,
stiff to
right? Like
me.
he is the Swiss Army knife, right? He does every position. He's been a kicker, and he probably could long snap if you need him to. So yeah, maybe he
Yeah,
can
he
do
could
that
long
too.
snap.
Yeah, he's just the ultimate football guy. The Niners even said like if they got really deep into like quarterback injuries, like he would play quarterback in an emergency.
Yeah.
We saw Christian McCaffrey play a little quarterback in an emergency in the NFC Championship game.
Mhm.
I can't remember if Juice took any snaps at quarterback in that
I
game.
think he did, but I can't remember. I think he did.
Yeah, so he is the Swiss Army football knife. I thought it was kind of weird too. Like I thought they were moving on, and I was very curious to see like what that would mean for the offense and Luke Farrell. What does that mean for him? They gave him a pretty nice little contract. So is he kind of the replacement? I guess not. Maybe they're going to play more 21 personnel or 12 personnel. I think they're league leaders in 21 personnel with Juice on the field. So I don't know what it means for the offense. What I do know is the Niners cannot run the ball in short yardage,
Yeah.
goal line, 3rd and 1, 4th and 1. They were the worst in the league last year. And by them bringing back Juice, that tells me that they don't blame him for that. They bringing back McCaffrey, obviously. He wasn't really available. And although McCaffrey's not a big guy, he is a good goal line back because he has good vision and he can squeeze through the cracks. Banks is gone. Pooney's
Mhm.
still right guard. So to me, that leaves Jake Brendel. Like there's no push in the middle. So if they're not running in short yardage, it's probably because they have a old, light in weight center with bad knees. Remember, Brendel had bad knees in training camp last year. He had like tendonitis in his knees, and I wonder if he was battling that throughout the season. So if you can't run the ball in short yardage, typically you would think that's where you would hammer the ball with the fullback, but we know Juice isn't really that guy. He's more of a blocker and a pass catcher, and even his blocking is okay. So I don't know. That to me that has to improve this offseason. One way or another is the short yardage.
It's interesting they keep signing or they're investing in skill positions, like guys that can block well, but not offensive linemen that can block well. Like we got these tight ends, probably best in the league, blocking tandem. Our 2 tight ends now. Juice, one of the best fullbacks, or at least he has been. Our wide receivers can block their tails off. I feel like our running backs can block pretty well, especially McCaffrey. But it's like, dang, our offensive lineman can't block nobody.
Were you going to say something, Steven?
I was, but it's not as important. I think that Juice serves his purpose, and I think that it has a lot more to do with like the assignment blocking that they give him. Like, yeah, you're right. He's not going to be, hey, you see that badass on the other team? I want you to go lay him out. Like, I don't think that's going to be him. He's not that guy. But it's like, use your smarts. You know the scheme better than anybody, and you get yourself in the right position to make this play happen, to open up that crease for the running back or cut the linebacker off that when he's trying to come through, you know. So I feel like it's more, it fits, I guess, Shanahan to a certain degree because like Shanahan's known for being, you know, a great run game guy, but it's not like they're ever power where they're just dominating you, you know. So it feels like he serves his purpose for where he's at, and this is how he can be best utilized.
Yeah, Juice is a leverage blocker, not a hammer like Mike Allstott or something like that. Like he's not going to meet Roquan Smith in the A gap and just push him out of the way. But he can kind of beat him to the edge and leverage him, and Christian can run off his back. So he can certainly do that. Like, the way I see it, if you're going to pay Juice and keep him around, then give him the dang ball. Throw him the ball more, because he catches the ball when you throw it to him.
Yeah.
It doesn't have to be a pretty pass. He can go to the ground. He can jump up. We've seen him make toe tap catches on the sideline. So throw him the ball more. Give him more than 12 touches in a season. And
maybe they will. You know, maybe that's part of the thought, and maybe that's another reason why having Farrell there is like he's going to be more of a pure blocker, so that opens up Juice.
To free up Juice.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. You know that Kyle's whole thing has always been like positionless football, right? Like I remember a few years ago, you sent us a picture of, I think Ayuk lined up like on
in
the
3-point stance.
or the 3-point stance in the backfield or something crazy. I can't remember exactly.
He was lined up at tight end in the 3-point stance. Yeah,
yeah.
I think that was his rookie year.
Yeah, and it's kind of like, you know, he's just gonna be experimenting with different things, and so I hope he's got a plan for it, and I would imagine they do. I can't imagine it was just like, oh crap, we should have never let Juice go. All right, let's get him back in here. But I don't know.
It's funny you mentioned that Brandon Ayuk play. I wonder if Brandon Ayuk is in the, at practice or Kyle's drawing it up on the whiteboard. However it works in the NFL, like, this is what we're gonna do, Brandon. You're gonna line up here in the 3-point stance with your hand in the dirt. Brandon's thinking, what the hell did I get myself into, man?
Yeah,
I play wide receiver. What is this? Kyle's like, just trust me. Speaking of backs, the guy that Juszczyk did a lot of blocking for last season, Jordan Mason, was traded to the Minnesota Vikings for, let's see, the Niners sent Jordan Mason and a 6th-round pick this year. In return, they got a 6th-round pick next year and a 5th-round pick this year, which ended up the Niners moving up 27 spots from the 6th round into the 5th round. So
to the money round.
So that'll probably be a perennial Pro Bowl player, whoever gets drafted there.
Incoming.
Yeah. What do you guys think about two things? Jordan Mason not being around, and how does that affect just the offseason outlook, the draft outlook? Because we talked about, I said the Niners need to at least draft one running back in this draft, and I think maybe one or both of you were kind of like, I don't know if they do. And now it's like, now you definitely need a back. At least I think. Tell me what you guys think. And then the compensation. Did they get enough for him? Are you happy with what they got in return? Do you think they could have gotten more? What say you, Jason?
I'm happy with it. It sounds silly, but it's like, if we want to go and like get younger, like, I didn't want to pay him what we were going to owe him to be a backup running back. I like him. I think he's good, but we've seen Kyle do this a million times, just cycle him through. So I didn't want to pay him. Glad to get some draft capital. 5th round is the money round. It's not a bad pick. I don't know. Get more. I don't know. Running backs aren't very highly valued. So honestly, when I saw 5th round pick, I was like, sick. Like, I thought it was decent value. So overall, I'm happy with it. I do think he has a chance to ball out in Minnesota. If they give him the ball a lot, which I think they will. I don't even know the other backs in Minnesota, but wish him, the absolute best. I'll be rooting for him. Might even try and get him on my fantasy team, but I think it was pretty good value and was the right decision.
Well, he's still RB2.
Who's
behind
RB1?
Aaron Jones.
Yeah. The Packer running back. And he signed a 2-year deal as well. So quickly, Jordan Mason signed a 2-year, $10.5 million deal. $7.2 million guaranteed at signing. So basically, the Niners guaranteed Juice about $7 million. Mason was guaranteed $7 million over 2 years. So essentially the same thing. So it seems like the Niners basically said, we're going to keep Juice and bail on Jordan Mason. Probably because Jordan Mason had some trade value and Juice did not. So, and he plays a more unique position, obviously.
I also think that Mason is a more limited player. As much as I like him, like, I feel like anything I'm going to say right now is going to come off as critical, and so I don't want that to be the case. But I don't think Jordan Mason is that special. I think he is a good running back. that did well in the scheme that he was put in. They coached him up. I mean, he was probably undrafted for a reason, right? And I want him to do well too, just like Chasen said. And I love that he got paid what he got paid. But if I had to guess, this is going to be the biggest contract that he ever signs in the NFL.
Yeah.
And that's not saying a whole lot. There's nothing wrong with that. You can go be a good player. He can still, catch on with other teams. Or maybe he's, defies what I'm saying and proves me wrong, and he gets a big deal and becomes Minnesota's featured back for the next 5 or 6 years. And I would be happy for him if he
That'd be
does that.
sick.
But I just don't see it. And you're also talking about the short yardage, and yeah, that's on the blockers, but it also could be on the running backs a little bit too.
Jordan Mason, as big as he was not a good short yardage back.
And I feel like we've already talked about how he's not much of a pass catcher. I mean, honestly, I'm not that surprised. Even like weeks or months ago, I was kind of saying, maybe keep Elijah Mitchell over Jordan Mason. Part of that was because of Mason maybe having more value, but I've thought all along that the hierarchy was going to be McCaffrey, Garindo, Mason going into this year. I thought that they like Garindo better. He's more of a fit, the pass catch guy. So I think he was just extra for the Niners. And it's like, hey, we can get something for him. We're not going to maximize his value here any longer. And I'll be real interested to see how he does in another system. I'm not saying he can't do well. I don't know that he might have already put his best foot forward.
Dang, hater.
I know.
Basically, Steven's saying
this man was a bona fide scrub.
I do not think he was a scrub. I think he was a good player and he worked hard and I liked him for all those reasons. But I also think that he was a limited player and he had certain things that he did really well and other things that he just couldn't bring to the table, and there's nothing wrong with that. But if you have a scheme that's looking for more, then he's not going to be your guy.
Yeah, he was an undrafted free agent, and you got one good year of production out of him. His first 2 years, he didn't do much, obviously. And then you trade him and you get some draft capital. So overall, it's a prudent move. I agree that he is a rather limited player. He runs like hell. I mean, he's so good running the ball, but that's kind of it. He improved as a pass blocker. I do remember seeing some good reps of him, like taking on blitzers, and he was fearless, even if he didn't have the proper technique, whatever that would be. But he also fumbled the ball a little bit, and for whatever reason, Brock just would not throw him the ball, no matter how open he was. So clearly, Brock didn't trust him for some reason. And I do like that he's going to go to Minnesota, where I think he's going to have an opportunity to play, because Aaron Jones is older and he's been injured a little bit. So we'll see what he can do. I wish they could have gotten a little more for him. Like maybe instead of getting the 5th round back, you get a 4th round pick back. I don't know. And you move up a couple extra spots. I feel like they could have maybe gotten more for him. He was like the second leading rusher in the NFL last year, behind Derrick Henry, through like a month and a half or 2 months of the season. So I don't know. Good luck, Jordan Mason. We'll see you around, I guess. No ill will towards you or whatever.
Nope.
Good luck to him. And the big signing, Kyle Shanahan finally got his guy that he wanted all along. 3rd overall, McCorkle Jones.
Is that his real name?
Well, his nickname is Mac, but yeah, I think his name is Mike McCorkle Jones.
Wow, what a name!
And I think that's where Mac comes from. So, yeah, obviously we know all the story about trading up the 3 and who did Kyle want? Mac, Trey. He picks Trey. Mac goes to the Patriots. Makes a Pro Bowl his rookie year, for whatever that's worth, as an alternate. Not the most legit Pro Bowl, but it's players like Mac Jones making the Pro Bowl is why people nowadays say, hey, the Pro Bowl doesn't really mean all that much. It's guys like Mac Jones and Tyler Huntley and Jake Brendel. So, yeah. Anyways, things went south for Mac, and now he's a Niner. Jason said it earlier before we started recording. This is probably the best move they've made all offseason, because it's a clear upgrade at backup quarterback, He's young. He's ascending, and the Eagles signed Kenny Pickett on a 2-year deal, and got obviously they signed him for nothing. They gave him a little bit of money, and they traded him this past offseason a couple weeks
Wow.
ago for a 5th-round pick. So could the Niners like rehab Max value and trade him next offseason? That's why they gave him a 2-year deal, I think. So I like that. I hope they'd be able to trade him. And obviously Mac wants to be on the Sam Darnold plan. Go rehab my image in San Francisco and get an opportunity somewhere else. So what do you guys think of the signing? And is it leverage against Brock Purdy in his negotiations, or is it just them wanting to get a younger, better backup quarterback?
Well, that's the interesting part. I think just surface value, it's a great signing for all the reasons that you listed. Young ascending guy, a guy that Kyle was rumored to really like, a guy that in the right scenario can be really accurate, kind of like Purdy. In the right situation can be accurate, be efficient, maybe
Better
not.
arm, just not mobile.
Yeah, not mobile. So I like it. I feel great about our number 2 quarterback heading into the season. Oh, and now, is it leverage? I think so. I mean, that's a pretty strong number 2. Like, if he has to play, I mean, I don't feel as strongly about the Niners roster as I did maybe like 2 years ago to be like, yeah, just throw him in there and we'll still make the playoffs. I don't even know if we're going to make the playoffs this year. But still, he's very serviceable. And I do think that they could potentially rehab him, trade him, keep him around a second year. I don't know. We'll see. We'll see how he looks in training camp. We'll see how the negotiations with Brock go. But I kind of do think it's leverage. Call me crazy. What do you think, Steven?
I feel like if you're counting on Mac Jones to be your leverage, it's pretty weak leverage, in my opinion. But I think it's smart for all the reasons that you both have said. I like the signing quite a bit, actually, because it feels like low risk, potential high reward.
Mm-hmm.
I think Ryan is right that he's probably thinking, hey, worst case scenario, I'm on the Sam Darnold plan. I can come in here and hopefully, get some spot action here and there and look decent doing it. And somebody wants to give me another shot. Best case scenario for Mac, something happens with Purdy, whether it's injury or the contract stuff or whatever, and he's starting quarterback for the San Francisco 49ers. And he does well, and now this is his team, right? So I don't think that's going to happen. I'm just saying, like, that's like his wildest dreams, right? So yeah, why wouldn't he go for it? And for the Niners, he's obviously got talent and upside. That's why he was, as well regarded as he was when he came out. So I think it makes a lot of sense, but I don't really see it as leverage. I mean, I don't feel like Brock has that much leverage to begin with. I mean, I read, that article about Trent Williams and the lesson that he taught them, and that's part of why they're getting Mac Jones in here. I can't remember who wrote that one, but it was an
I'm
interesting
not
read.
familiar with that one.
Yeah, it was an interesting read. And I think, like, Brock's still under contract right now. Of course he could hold out. But do we really think that that's how he would go about it? Maybe. Maybe his reps are going to, like, tell him, you must, you have to, whatever, right? I just don't see that happening because I don't think Brock Purdy is universally viewed as this really good quarterback. I think people are still split on him. You see it in the media. I think you probably see it with coaches too. It's not like you hear every coach talk him up. And even then, a lot of it could just be coach speak when they're playing, against the Niners.
Looking at you, Steve Spagnuolo.
Yeah, I think that some guys genuinely believe that he is underrated, great quarterback. Look at all these traits he brings. And then other guys don't value what he brings to the table as much and don't see him as that great. I mean, I know we've talked about listening to Chris Sims. He obviously doesn't think much of him. I'm not saying Chris Sims is the the be all and end all about quarterbacks, but he knows a thing or two about it. But he's also said in the past he tends to gravitate towards the guys that are, you know, specimens and athletic freaks, and that's not Brock. But there's plenty of other guys that are going to be out there and see the results and see the intangibles and see the other stuff and think that's worth way more than, you know, being this big hunk of a man that can throw the ball a mile, right? So it's it's split, and I don't think Brock is like, yeah, he would have an opportunity, he'd get paid big money somewhere else, but it wouldn't be like, um, just the top quarterbacks in the league. It's not Josh Allen, it's not Lamar Jackson, it's not Patrick Mahomes, who are like, oh my gosh, what are the Niners even thinking? You do whatever you have to do to keep this guy around. So I don't think Brock has the leverage production wise. I don't think he has it in the contractual situation. And I think that the Niners already had it. They didn't need Mac. I think Mac is more insurance than leverage, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. I think he's more insurance than leverage. Um, you said a few interesting things there, though. I'm ready to move on from Mac. I don't really care about Mac Jones anymore. You talked about Brock, like the holdout, and you said you don't think he's going to hold out, and I tend to agree with you, but I can't really conceptualize why. Like, I don't think
Yeah.
Mac. God, moving on from Mac, it's stuck in my stupid head. I don't think Brock is the type of guy who's gonna like hold out and demand. I'm better than Dak Prescott. I want more than 60 million a year, at least match it. But his agent, that's a
Yeah.
whole totally different story. His representation could
Yeah.
say, no. They haven't paid you. I know training camp starts in a couple days. We're holding out. And if the Niners want to risk having another one of their great players have a slow start or a bad season because of their mishandling of contract negotiations, that's on them. And when it happens to the most important player on the team, the quarterback, the results and a depleted roster right now, like, they're going to lose. And if they want to continue this holdout and hold their hard line into this regular season, they're going to lose week 1, week 2, week 3. I don't care how bad the schedule looks. They're going to lose. And eventually the Niners are going to cave. And then Brock's going to finally get back in the fold, and he's going to have to catch up to speed. And the whole season is going to spiral, and they're going to end up winning 5 games. And then, who knows? Kyle and John could be fired at that point. So do you really think the Niners are going to hold that hard line? Because you're right, Steven. They have the leverage. Brock's under contract next year, and they have the franchise tag options after that. Like, where do you kind of see this going? I've been listening to so many people talk about it, and I can't figure out. Is this thing going to get done at the 11th hour before the season, before training camp? Like, how far are the Niners willing to dig in to make this, to get their deal?
So even though you heard me make the point, sorry, Chase, I just want to
No,
respond
it's
to a couple
fine.
of things. You heard me make the point that the Niners have all the leverage. I am a little disappointed that they haven't, um, as a sign of goodwill or a commitment to their guy, made it more of a point. Like, I do think you overpay Brock a little bit, and you do that in the vein of all these nice things you've been saying about him. You prove it. You prove it by giving him a bigger contract. So if you think he's worth 45 million a year, give him 50 million a year. If you think he's worth 50, give him 53. I don't know, right? Like, I'm just saying, I get that you might have a price tag for him. I don't think you should take a hard line for the reasons that you pointed out. All that said, and maybe they're reading the situation correctly, the reason that I don't think Brock's going to hold out is because I think he knows that the only way for him to really be effective and show his best foot, like that he's putting his best foot forward, is for him to be there and prepare, because he is not the physical freak that can just show up and be like, yeah, roll the balls out, I'm going to go kick ass, right? He's going to need to be getting schemed up and connecting with guys, and it's going to be on timing. It's not going to be like,
But will
yeah,
his representation let him do that? Because I think Brock will want to be there with or without a deal. but will his representation let him?
That's ultimately up to him too. Do you want to let them make the decision for you, or like, I honestly think he would cave before the Niners would cave. I don't know how long it would go, but I feel like maybe after a week or two he would be like, I got to get in there. I can't potentially lose my job. I can't
Max out there slicing and dicing.
right, or even just like I can't afford to take this time and miss it, right? So that's my sense. I don't know. I don't know the guy, right? Like, I just have to project it based on the little that we see, but just knowing the type of player he is and the type of guy he seems to be, I think that he would take more the approach of, you know what? I'm just going to put my head down and kick ass. And if they don't want to pay me big money, somebody else will if I get out there and do a good job. Like, I see him being that kind of guy, not a, oh man, I got to get it now because I may never get it again, type of situation.
I do agree with the narrative that like Brock still has so much more to prove. And so I'd hope he's at every mini camp, he's at every training camp, he's doing everything he can to have a good season, because he is, in my opinion, still such a big question mark and whether or not he can be the future. So I understand like the hesitancy to want to give him so much money, because at least in my opinion, I'm still not sure. The jury's still out. So, yeah, I don't have too much to add outside of that. I think everything that you guys said, like, I'm aligned with, and I don't know if he's gonna hold out or not. I kind of lean towards I wouldn't be surprised if he did. Like, he's got all these veteran players that have also done it and that have gotten paid and might be advising him a little bit. And look what we did and look the contract we got, so on and so forth. So I don't know. I don't really see too many reasons why he wouldn't, other than like, yeah, he is a good guy, a humble guy, so on and so forth.
It would go against everything that, like, his brand, his image so far
I
is
agree.
is like, do the right thing. So, like, do the right thing would be honor your commitment, honor your contract. These guys drafted you, and yeah, you were the last pick, but they still drafted you, and they've still, given you the keys to the Ferrari. So show your appreciation. You humble yourself, and you get out there and you go earn it. Like, I could just see him being that kind of guy, and that, to me, that fits the narrative. Everything about him so far is like, oh, he's mature beyond his years, and I think that would be anti Brock Purdy to hold out. Doesn't mean he won't do it. It just seems like that's going to be, a juxtaposition. And you talked about the other veteran guys. I think he'll learn the lessons from them. I mean, we've talked about all the bad that's come of it. I mean, what guy has had their contract situation linger and then kick ass right after? I think every single one of them have had a down year by their standards when they've done that. So I could see him being like, I don't want that. My legacy and my production and how I look as a player, my reputation is worth more than trying to squeeze a few extra million, because I'm sure that the number is closer than what we might think. I don't think Brock's in there demanding 60 and the Niners are at 45. But maybe it is. I don't know, but I don't think so. His representation might be saying that, but who did not do him any favors was Josh Allen. And so doesn't Josh Allen's deal average like 55 million? And then Patrick Mahomes was getting paid a boatload of money, and I know his contract was a few years ago, but like, he signed a team-friendly deal,
Yeah.
at the time. And so it's like, all the guys that are truly at the top of the game, I feel like, are the ones, other than Lamar. I know Lamar held out and got his bag, right? But all those guys are pretty much examples of doing the right thing, being the good guy, taking a little bit less to keep the team together and to show that you're part of the organization and whatever. And so I just can't imagine Brock's going to come in there and be like, nope, give me every penny you can give, and I'm going to dig my heels in.
Well, isn't one of like Purdy's role models or idols or whatever, Tom Brady. I feel like I've heard him say like, I want to be like Tom Brady or something in like interviews. And it's like, well, Tom Brady laid the blueprint of taking a team friendly deal and building a really good roster around you. So follow that path.
Yeah. So from what I understand, obviously the player hires the agent. And if the player says, if the agent comes to the player and says, I've got a contract worth this much, he can say, no, I won't, go get more. If the agent comes to the player and says, I've got a sponsorship with so-and-so, I don't like that sponsor, don't want it. But the way I understand it is the players' union could tell Brock, like, you cannot practice. I know you want to get out there with your guys, but it's not about you. It's about all of the players. It's about all of the quarterbacks, and you don't get to make the selfish decision for yourself. You have to sit out and get every penny that you're worth. I could be wrong about that, but that's how I've heard it explained about, like, the players' union and the agents essentially will not let him practice, even if he's like, hey, you work for me, and if I want to go practice with or without a deal, I can.
I don't know about the union part. I know the agent part. Brock is in control. He can fire that agent at any time. He could go represent himself. I'm sure they have some sort of agreement where the agent's like, let me do my thing and I'm going to take care of you. So, it might not always feel good or be the tactics you want, but at the end of the day, Brock's making those decisions. I really don't know how much control the union has. I have a feeling that would be more like pressure rather than actual like authority.
Actual rules.
Yeah, to say, and I'd come back to the Josh Allen point because he just signed, right? Just like a month ago or whatever. Like, so if he did that, it's like, well, then they should be more mad at him because he's getting paid less than Dak. Who's going to take Dak?
Well, he signed for a historic amount of guaranteed money.
Okay, and so maybe that's what Brock does too. Maybe they give him a lower amount and it's fully guaranteed. Maybe that's why they're clearing all this cash. I mean, that's what Cousins did. He didn't get paid as much as he could have, but he took a fully guaranteed deal. So maybe Brock does end up at $45 million a year when people are thinking it could be 50 or 55, but it's fully guaranteed at 45. I don't know. I mean, maybe that's even too rich for the Niners, but who knows? Who knows?
45 grand a year feels like too much for the Niners.
Yeah.
Yeah, for real.
It's interesting about, you mentioned Josh Allen, and people keep talking about, should it be 45, should it be 50, 55, 60, whatever. To me, that number is pretty irrelevant, the AAV. It's more about the guaranteed money.
For sure.
You mentioned Josh Allen got $55 million per year, Dak's at 60. Well, what would you rather have?
Josh? Like,
no,
like
I was going to give you a hypothetical here.
No,
a 4-year contract, $200 million guaranteed. That's only $50 million per year.
Yeah.
Or a 3-year contract, $180 million, but only $120 guaranteed. That's $60 million per year, but you have way less guarantees and less years.
Oh, I'm taking the guarantee. Yeah,
exactly.
Sure.
So if the Niners can give Brock 60, 65 million per year, no problem. Just make it a shorter deal and you don't guarantee as much. So if things go south, you can get out of it. So to me, it's like, I don't really care if he's making 50 or 55 or 60. It's all about the guaranteed dollars. And we've already seen the reports that they want a shorter term deal, which to me means a 3-year deal, 4 max. And so do you sweeten it by saying, okay, we only want to pay you 45, but like you said, Steven, we'll guarantee every penny.
Yeah.
Or do you say, okay, we'll give you your 60, but we're only guaranteeing like 100 million. Yeah. So that's like a year and a half worth of guarantees and we can get out of it easily. So just figure it out and get it done. Because what I don't want, I mean, that kind of leads me into the John Lynch thing, because I'm trying to figure out, like, are the Niners trying to piss on us and tell us it's rain and that they want to compete next season and be good? Or are they setting the table for an awful year?
It's going to be right down the middle. We're just going to miss the playoffs by like a game or two.
So here's what John Lynch said. We've got this thing called the draft, and we've got a lot of picks. Like, first of all, have you guys heard about this draft thing? I've never heard of it. I didn't know that was a thing the NFL does.
Yeah, That's
but it
cool.
sounds like they're pretty confident that they can make something happen in the draft. They must have a great history of drafting players, or he wouldn't be so confident. And I think the thing the fans should know is we have a plan. Thank God. I thought you guys were winging it. And we're going to execute that plan. And we're excited about the opportunity. Last year, we had such a good roster. I think we doubled down and said, let's go for this thing. And we kind of pushed all the chips in, knowing that at some point, you're going to have to reset. And this was that year. So guys like Leonard Floyd and Malik, believe me, their impact was felt. They were great. It was nothing they did wrong. We just felt like it was the time to do it, and we're excited about what we can add and replenish. So, what is the plan? They've got a plan. What is it? Because they've had plans in the past. I know they have a plan. I know they're not just like, hey, should we cut Leonard Floyd? Yes or no? I'll flip a coin. Oh, tails. He's gone. Like, I know that's not what they're doing, but they've had plans in the past. They planned on trading up to 3. They executed that plan. How'd that go? They planned on trading DeForest Buckner and drafting his replacement. They executed that plan. How'd that go? They planned on targeting a wide receiver. They traded up and got Ayuk. Great job. Plan executed. That went well. So just because they have a plan and they plan on executing that plan doesn't mean anything to me, really. And it seems pretty obvious what the plan is. It's to draft great players. But isn't that what all the teams are trying to do?
Yeah, but the difference is if you are treating the picks as like get as many as you can, like if you have that mentality of buy as many lottery tickets as you can and you're more likely to hit, not everybody values them that way. Other people look at them as like, oh, I just want, I'm going to do whatever I can to get that high pick and I'm going to sacrifice my depth or my quality. And it's kind of funny because I don't know like how much more time we have. I know Chasen's like a little constricted, but
Yeah, I got to go pretty soon.
but I I'm the eternal optimist. I know it. I'm starting to feel pretty good. I got to be honest, because just because I've been like looking around at like what some of these guys did that they let go. Everybody is basically average or below average in terms of their production, with the notable exceptions. Greenlaw was hurt last year, so you can't really judge that, right? And Mooney, I think he had a down year by his standards, but was still pretty effective. But otherwise, like I was looking at everybody's PFF grades of the guys that have left, and they're all like middle of the road.
They're just guys.
I think you're going to be able to get middle of the road from a bunch of young guys. And what I'm excited about is getting these guys that are going to be young and hungry and want to prove their point, led by Robert Saleh, being intense as all get out, getting them fired up, getting them coached up because he knows his stuff. I think they still have a good staff, and I think they still have the leaders at important positions. Like we act like the roster is just absolutely barren. I know the D line looks a little rough right now, but like if you look at all levels of the defense, there's still impact players that I'm pretty damn stoked are 49ers at each level. I mean, I'm really excited about Mustafa next year, and he's with Lenore and Green. Like, all right, 3 of 4 secondary spots I feel really good about. And anyway, so my point is, you can either pay these average guys above average money and hamstring yourself, or you can give yourself a chance to hit on something that's even better than above average. Like, who thought Fred Warner was going to be what he is when they drafted him? Nobody. Like, might have thought he was going to be a good player. I don't think anybody envisioned converting a safety and becoming the best linebacker in the league, right?
John Lynch has admitted he did not see Fred Warner's career arc coming when they drafted him.
So, I mean, that's kind of what you do. And you look at teams like I know the big comparison's been the Rams and how they pushed all their chips in and they went and won their Super Bowl. Unfortunately for the Niners, they didn't. Lost in overtime. But the Rams pushed all their chips in and then did this exact same thing. And look how quickly they were able to reset. And so I think that's what the Niners are trying to do. Because the Rams all of a sudden back in the playoffs and have a up and coming team. And people are talking about like they're the if the Niners aren't the favorites and the NFC West is the Rams, right? Like, so I think the Eagles kind of low key did a similar thing. The good teams, the ones that win Super Bowls, usually build through the draft. And if you're not getting the high picks, and that's where there's more pressure, where you have to hit an absolute home run, if you're not getting those picks, then you do need to give yourself more chances to get those guys. And so that's why I say I'm feeling pretty good. Now, does that mean they're going to win the Super Bowl next year? No, that's not my expectation right now. I want to see how they do in the draft. But I also think that they could have a good draft and still sign a couple guys here and there. So I'm not mad at it because I feel like I don't like the idea of just continuing to run it back with guys that are coming up short. And last year was not good. That's the other thing that's crazy to me about people talking about, man, what are the Niners doing? Look at all these D linemen they let go. They let go of Javon Hargrave, Leonard Floyd, Malik Collins, right? Like those are the big names that they let go of. How many of those guys were we like just stoked about last year when we watch every single game?
I liked Leonard Floyd, but I was in the minority.
Okay, but like go look at his PFF grade. Or better yet, look at the Niners' effectiveness on D. So we're all freaking out that they're letting guys go that had a defense that was towards the bottom of the league when it came to run defense. Like how many times were we frustrated last year? Like, why can't they stop the run? What's going on? So I guess what I'm saying is, if you're going to take a chance at trying to like reset and get new talent in here, might as well do it with young, cheap guys that could be more rather than middle of the road guys that you can afford, that you know what they're going to be. And there's a very slim chance that they're going to be more.
For me, it's like, I agree with a lot of that, but like, it's like I'm fine with letting a lot of those players go, but why aren't we pursuing different players? Are we just expecting this draft to completely replenish? Why didn't we bid a couple extra million on Joey Bosa to bring him in if we liked him? Why didn't we bid an extra few million for Dre Greenlaw when clearly we really wanted him and I feel like could have brought him back? So it's like, that's where I get a little concerned, is like, okay, letting expensive and mediocre to not very good players that are aging, let them go. That's fine. All those players you listed, I'm fine with letting them go. But like when I don't see us making any type of aggressive pursuit of better players to fill the roster, I'm just like, okay, we got all these old superstars with a bunch of young question marks. I'm like, what is this next season going to be? I have no idea. It's a big question mark.
It is
a lot of question marks. So
it is.
I don't know.
I agree with you. There's still a question mark. Ryan, sorry if you want to say something, but just to respond to Chasen, I think the answer to the question that you asked about both those players is the same answer: injury concern. So I think that they set a number and said, this is where we're willing to take that injury risk for Dre Greenlaw and Joey Bosa. And they went over their budget. I think the Niners are sticking to a budget, right or wrong. Some people will disagree with it, but at least you got to give them credit for sticking to their budget. And I feel like a lot of times that turns out good. It's like the auction draft that we do every year for fantasy. Like I have guys where I like this guy and I want him on my team, but I only like him up to this point. And I think that's exactly what the Niners are doing, in real life.
Moneyball.
I feel like the other thing about free agency is like we get so enamored because like you see, oh, these are the guys that are available. This dude's a stud. Like he made a Pro Bowl 3 years ago, right? I remember he had a big game against such and such, and so we think about that stuff. It's like the guys that get to free agency, there is a reason. The same thing that we've been saying about like Hufanga, like, yeah, enjoy that. Or Kinlaw signing a big deal, or all like Aaron Banks, like, what the heck are you guys looking at? That's what other fans are saying about the guys that left their team. You are not getting the best of the best ever in free agency. You you were getting all the C students, maybe a few B students here and there because of circumstances get mixed in, and they get paid like A students because they're on the open market and it doesn't cost. So it's like right out of the gate, it is not a good value and it is not a smart way to build your team through free agency. You supplement through free agency. You maybe find the missing piece through free agency, but it's like in general, I don't think it's good practice. And so I feel like the Niners are being disciplined. Now, they may be disciplined to a fault where they're going to end up with, not enough talent, especially if they don't draft well. They're putting the pressure on themselves to draft. But I don't have a problem from a business standpoint of what they're doing. And I think that they could be setting themselves up for bigger, better things in the future.
Yeah, look, if they save a ton of money this offseason and then next season they have a bunch of cap space and they start paying guys and spending money again, then fine. You got to take 1 year to reset, fine. But if they're just going to go forward like, no, we're just going to let our free agents walk so we can get comp picks and then sign a bunch of, bargain bin special team. At least the special team is going to be hella good next year.
Hope so.
Because everyone they've signed is a special teams player and they've got the new coach. So the special team should be top 5. Yeah, my thing's just been like, and I agree with you, Steven. You're in free agency, you're paying B and C students A grades. But there are, like, you still need an Azeez Ojulari or a Calais Campbell. Like, we do need some guys, and they just haven't replaced any of the guys that have walked out of the door yet. And I know they want to hit on the draft, but they wanted to hit on the draft in 21 and 22 and 23 too. And, you mentioned bringing in guys that are young and hungry. All those guys were young and hungry. Drake Jackson is young and hungry. It doesn't matter. Danny Gray's young and hungry, doesn't matter. So can they draft like good players? And there's a lot of them in this draft. But there's 3 ways to make your team better. You can trade for a player, you can sign a player in free agency, or you can draft a player. And they have abandoned 2 of those options, and they're leaning heavily on the one that has the highest miss rate. So,
well,
good luck.
They haven't abandoned the trade option yet. They just haven't done it yet. We don't know where that's going to end up.
Is that John's plan? Is that what he's referring to? Like, wait till draft day, we're cooking.
No, I don't know. I'm just saying, like, everybody's analyzing it in mid-March as if it's a done deal, and there's still so much off-season left. I mean, there could be other guys that get cut from other teams after the draft because the team ends up with a guy they weren't expecting to get, and they're like, well, we're not going to pay this guy and this guy, so we're releasing this veteran. I mean, I'm not saying that's the best way to plan on building your team or anything, but it's just it's an unwritten story right now. And so I feel like trade is probably the next best thing after the draft. Like, draft is number 1. You say it has the biggest miss rate, but it's also got the best reward. It's the highest risk, highest reward, right? In terms of you're taking a shot on this player. Then the next best is trade, because then you're going to get a guy that you really want that's going to cost you something because he's really valuable. So it's high risk from that, or high compensation, hopefully good reward. Free agency, I feel like, is more of a crapshoot than people think. Like, people think, oh, these are established players, this is what they've done. I mean, it would be real interesting to see how many free agents live up to the contract if you could quantify it, because I would think it's probably as low, if not lower, than the draft success rate, whatever you consider a success rate.
Yeah, it might be. I mean, just looking at the Niners, like, Charvarius Ward, yeah, easy, great signing. But we had this conversation recently. It was like Hargrave, no. I always forget his name. The linebacker that they signed early.
Devondre Campbell.
No. I'm talking like 2018.
Oh, Quan?
Legendary. Yeah, Quan Alexander.
Hot Boys.
The Hot Boys. Like, now he turned Fred Warner into an animal. So maybe that was worth the signing in itself. But ultimately, he, as a player, was not what they wanted. They wanted him to be their Reuben Foster replacement.
Mm-hmm.
I'm trying to think of some of their other bigger signings, but Because like McCaffrey, Trent, they traded for those guys, but
They have a pretty
Samson
good
Ebukam
trade
was
success
okay.
rate.
Like, where's that guy? Like, where's just like the Samson Ebukam? I don't need you to go get Joey Bosa or Josh Sweat, but like, you couldn't find like a Samson Ebukam or just like the next Malik Collins. Like,
Yeah, that's. I feel like Samson is similar to Ojulari that you're talking about, right? Like it's the same type of guy.
yeah, Ojulari got a 1 year, $4 million deal. So I'm like, man, the Niners, you couldn't do that. But then I'm like, he's clearly got some red flags because, like, he goes to the Eagles, so of course he's gonna like have a good year or something. But like 1 year, $4 million for a $25-year-old pass rusher, that was all he could get.
Tells you
Clearly,
something.
there's something off there.
It's not like it's only the Niners who said no to him. There's 31 other teams that didn't do it.
Yeah, yeah. So yeah, but you're right. The off season is it's young, so we'll see. I don't want to judge this team and stick a fork in him in the middle of March. So
Did Calais Campbell sign somewhere and I missed it?
Nope. He did
Chasing-
not. I just Googled his name, and the first article that pops up is why the 49ers should sign Calais Campbell. The second one is why the Eagles should pursue Calais Campbell.
of course,
Yeah.
I would be perfect. I'd be happy to get Calais Campbell because
I
he'd
would
probably be
forgive.
cheap, and like we talked about this too. Like whoever you're going to draft, they're going to draft at least probably 2 defensive tackles, if not 3. And those guys, who better to learn from than Calais Campbell?
I love Calais Campbell. All right. I really got to go.
Okay.
Yep, we'll call
If
it.
that's all right. All right.